In today's lesson, we will be solving one-step equations, but we're going to be using decimals and even better, fractions. But before we can learn how to solve equations with fractions, let's review how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them. If we have the same denominator, so 1/5 plus 3/5, remember you just add the numerators. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and keep the denominator 5, so 4/5. But now, can you remember what to do if you don't have like denominators? Like in this example, we have 1/2 plus 4/9. To create a like denominator, let's see, because I have 9 over here, I can multiply this fraction top and bottom by 9. And then since I have 2 over here, I can multiply this fraction top and bottom by 2. So now I'm going to rewrite my fractions. So you should end up with 9/18 plus 8/18, and now add the numerators. 9 plus 8 is 17, so we have 17/18. If we're multiplying fractions, all we have to do is multiply straight across, so 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 5 is 15. Look to simplify, but in this case, it's simplified. And now last example, dividing two fractions, 1/2 divided by 3/4. Remember, keep it, change it, flip it. Keep the first fraction, so keep it as 1/2. Keep it, change it, flip it, change it to multiplication, and then flip it, we're multiplying by the reciprocal, 4/3. And now if you multiply straight across, 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6, which then that reduces to 2/3. So there's your quick review of fractions, because we're going to be using that information to actually solve equations. So here's our first example. This time we actually just have a decimal, no fraction, and it's one step. If I have my line, remember I want to get my variable here by itself. So I need to get rid of the subtraction of 4.72. So opposite of subtraction is addition. So I need to add 4.72 to get rid of it. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So here they cancel, and it leaves you with just x by itself on the right side. And 5.6 plus 4.72 is 10.32. So x equals 10.32. And then it's always smart to check your answer just to double check that it makes sense. So what is 10.32 minus 4.72? You should get the original 5.6. In our second example, here this time we have a fraction, and it's just one step, and we have a like denominator, so not too bad. And I want to get, let's see, my x by itself on this side. So the opposite of addition, I need to subtract 1/5 on both sides. So I subtract 1/5 here to cancel this fraction out, and then I need to do that to the other side, minus 1/5. So x is left over on the left, and that equals, same denominator, so I just have to combine my numerators. 3 minus 1 is 2. Keep the denominator, so it's 2/5. And if you just check your answer, let's see, this makes perfect sense, that 2/5 plus 1/5 is 3/5. So it checks. And then the last one involving addition and subtraction is a little more complicated. We have a fraction, and we do not have the same denominator. But first, let's just start with, I want to get my x by itself, and I have subtraction. So I have to undo that by adding 3/4 to both sides. So I add 3/4 here to cancel out, and then add 3/4 on the right side. X left over on the left, and now let's rewrite these fractions with a common denominator. Let's think. 10 and 4 both go into 40, because 10 times 4 is 40, but they also both go into 20. So let's change the denominator to 20. So if I change both of these to 20, how do I change my numerators? Well, to get 10 to 20, I'd have to multiply by 2. So I have to multiply the top by 2 to get 2 over 20. And then, what do I have to multiply 4 by to get to 20? Multiply by 5. So I multiply the top by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. And now, simplify. 15 plus 2 is 17. And 17/20. And that is already in simplest form. And then if you check it, you can just do it quick. 17/20 minus 3/4 should give you 1/10. Alright, now let's do some examples where we're multiplying and dividing. So in this case, we want to get this x by itself, but we have this fraction bar, which means division. So we have to multiply both sides by the number in the numerator. So I multiply this side by 36, and that cross simplifies and cancels my other 36 out. And I have to multiply 36 on this side. So x is left over on the right, and x equals negative 352.8. So if I rewrite it, x equals negative 352.8. And then if you wanted to check it, plug it back in into your fraction and just double check what is negative 352.8 divided by 36. When you divide it, you should get negative 9.8. In this example, we have 1/5 times h equals 1/10. So this is multiplication, and opposite of multiplication is division. But think about every time we divide fractions, what do we always do? We keep it, change it, flip it. So I'm going to skip the step of dividing and immediately change it to keep it, change it, flip it. I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So because I want h by itself, I have to multiply by the reciprocal of 1/5, which is 5 over 1. So multiply both sides by 5 over 1. Here, they cancel out, and it leaves me with just h equals, multiplying fractions, just multiply straight across, 1 times 5 and 10 times 1. So that is 5 over 10, which equals, h equals 1/2 after you simplify it. Always check it. Let's see, what is 1/5 times 1/2? Well, it makes sense. It is 1 over 10. Okay, here's our last example together, and then you're going to try 3 on your own. So 6 times x equals 2/3. I want to get x by itself, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So I need to divide both sides by 6. However, I have a fraction here, which makes things a little complicated. Instead of dividing by 6, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 6, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 6. I can do that because this 6 is really like 6 over 1. And then this 6 simplifies out. So x equals, multiply across 2 times 1 and 3 times 6. So I have 2 over 18, and that can simplify to x equals 1 over 9. And then don't forget to check 6 times 1/9 equals 2/3. Okay, here are 3 examples. X minus 11/16 equals 7/8. 2/7 times x equals 1/14, and 5x equals 1/2. I want you to pause the video and write them down, try them on your own, and then come back and check your answer. For the first one, you should get 25/16, which if you change it to a mixed number, 1 and 9/16. Then you should get the x equals 1/4. And the last one, you should get the x equals 1/10. So I hope you did well on those 3. Don't forget you can always check your solution, and that is the lesson. So good luck.